Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. Today we got a special edition, December the 3rd, 2023, excuse me. It's college football time. It's because it's a lot of excitement. It's a lot of people out there in Tallahassee, Florida that's upset. I'm glad that we're doing this show today because it kind of fits in what we're going to talk about. If you like the video today, please come in and share it. We surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards Football. The location I'm broadcasting live from today is 879 Ralph Abernathy Boulevard, located in the West End here in historic Atlanta, Georgia. And today, I got a special guest, the owner of Royal Crown Barber Shop, Mr. L. That's what he want to go by. And you know what? He's the University of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner. We talk about college football, where the Oklahoma Sooners football program really changed the history of college football. Like the video, one more time, please come in and share it. And our topics today are going to be Oklahoma football history. Then we're going to have our NFL legend special. Today we're going to highlight Shannon Sharpe. And then finally, we're going to talk about the 4 teams that made the college football playoffs: Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Roll Tide, the University of Alabama. So let's get started here on 100 Yards Football. Well, Mr. L, how you doing today, sir?
Doing good, brother.
Sunday morning?
Yes, sir. Sunday, good afternoon.
I'd like to say, first of all, before we get started, I want to say appreciation to you, the lives to come into this beautiful establishment right here in the West End. Thank you. And tell us a little bit about your barbershop, Royal Crown. How long have you been here?
Absolutely. We started in 1999. Our press, we have a picture of him to the far right up here.
Yes, sir.
Conceptualized with another brother, building. We had a braid salon right down this hall.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought was, can we build something for the brothers to congregate around? Naturally, barbershops is something that we
Right.
do. So, brothers built it from scratch, man. Went to Home Depot a couple of times. Built it. It's 99. We have one of the nicest shops. One of CVS over there, man.
Yes, sir.
And so we managed to stay open 21 years up until COVID. And again, the Prince blessed us to move into this facility. It was a clothing store, our boutique. And so we renovated it to this right here now. And again, it's been a blessing. We've been able to service the community for 24 years now. Celebrities, athletes, watch games, Super Bowls, college football. We have a good time. Gathering soccer now. Helped start the West End soccer program with the Soccer in the Streets, bringing the children from here over there.
Amen.
They built 2 fields, $300,000 worth of soccer fields for Harvey Lane Foundation. So this block has done a lot for the community, been an inspiration and light to the community. It's probably a pillar of such.
Now let's get into the main topic today, college football. You from Oklahoma City, high school. Mm-hmm. I like for you to get a name of your high school because you were talking proud when I came in. Talking about, I went to Carl Elbert, and y'all had a great running back that went to Oklahoma by the name of Mike Gaddis. Mike Gaddis, tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you became an OU fan and basically what your high school did last night.
Sure. I was born in Ohio.
Okay.
My father was in the service, so we moved around from Arizona, Philippines.
Right.
But he got stationed to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma in like 81, 82.
Correct.
So that was Samuel, Dupree came
yes,
to the field. So I was in awe. Like, man, what's going on? There wasn't no pro team in Oklahoma, but it needed to be because Oklahoma got so much press and they were good.
Right.
And like Switcher said, they had more first-round draft picks than most teams, NFL teams. Mm-hmm. So we had enough watching them. Mm-hmm. And so I couldn't help but love football. It was just in your face all game, and they were winning. Mm-hmm. And the main thing I liked about it is watch football years prior and, saw what I saw. But when I saw Oklahoma football, I saw myself playing because the quarterback looked like me.
Yes, sir.
The linebacker, the defensive back.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? All the key players looked like me all over the board. I was like, wow, that always stuck out to me. Mm-hmm. There was no problem with that. So they got down. They played real, played hard. I could go visit relatives in Atlanta, wherever. Oklahoma was number 1 there too, just beating everybody. So I felt good. It was a sense of pride, the sense that you got a college team or team in the state you live in that's kicking butt all over. And then the pinnacle players on the team looked like you. So that was a big upliftment, a good shot on, always watching Jordan and Dr. J. But you live in Oklahoma, you feel good about your squad. And I lived in Midwest City. So I went to Carl Albert. They call it Midwest City Carl Albert. But really, the high school is Carl Albert. It's in the city of Midwest City. So, and I think last night we played Dale City 5A. Won the state championship again, beat Dale City. I think that's our 17th or 18th.
Wow.
And our first was my senior year. So to see them still winning, we were struggling before then. We couldn't get away. We had played for 3 or 4 before then. We finally broke through. My senior year, 89, 90. Now we got like 17, maybe 18. And I was watching on YouTube, and I seen Oklahoma's coach, Greg Variables, Marco Murray there, a couple other coaches there scouting the game.
Sure.
Got a couple players for Carl Albert's going to Oklahoma, so Xavier Robinson and whatnot. And again, our high school used to be called, Oklahoma High School. A lot of our players, high school basketball and football. Jeff Webster, I played basketball with him in high school. He went to Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
Got drafted by the Heat. Now he's the agent for Randall, playing for the Knicks. Julius Randall, playing for Kentucky. Okay. And does some things in that way. So a lot of people from there have gone on to do great things. But that atmosphere, the culture there in Oklahoma, which was a calabash of everybody working together, just to feel one kind of go away, no negative energies. I remember that about Oklahoma. So to still see them ball, it's a good thing.
When you talk about college football, and a lot of people in the South, Memphis, growing up around SEC, and of course growing up around SWAC, when I was doing my research on Oklahoma football history, I really didn't know that really, when you're looking at the 1900s from 1915 to 1930, college football was centered around Notre Dame, Alabama, USC, Washington, and Michigan. And all them schools right there in the 1920s and 30s. But to me, and I don't want nobody to get upset, when college football really changed, is when the Boomer Sooners came on the scene in 1948 when they hired a young man from Minnesota who had won 3 national championships with the Golden Gophers. His name was Bud Wilkerson, quarterback on the Minnesota Gophers team from 1934 to 1936. But when he got that Oklahoma job in 48, that's when college football really changed. And to me, what changed it was, think about this, what Bud Wilkerson did, Boomer Sooner, is that 1948 to 1951, Oklahoma had a 31-game winning streak.
Right.
Then come back years later from 1953 to 1957, they have a 47-game winning streak. During that time, you talking about the mid-50s, the game was changing. And what Bud Wilkerson did, he brought a certain style, a split T formation. And then, what other offense came to Wishbone. And then looking in the 50s, what really got me to really saying Boomer Sooner was that 1956 team that he had. Tommy McDonald, Jerry Tubbs, Clendon Thomas, Jimmy Harris at the quarterback position. And that team right there was so dominant. That year, they beat all 10 opponents by a margin of 41 points a game.
And that same year, they had their first African-American player, Prentice Geddes.
That's what I'm saying.
So they incorporated that. Not too many major top 5 schools had African-American players, like maybe UCLA or SC.
And that's what I'm talking about. Bud Wilkerson changed that. And then when you're looking at it, Oklahoma took on a kind of the persona of Hollywood, because Bud Wilkerson was a good-looking guy. He wasn't your typical college football coach like a Bear Bryant, no disrespect, Roll Tide, that be duffing snuff up there in the towers and look, Bud Wilkerson was sharp. He was nice. And he brought that swagger to Oklahoma. And like I said, I'm going to bring it up. 2 winning streaks. From 48 to 51, they had a 31-game winning streak. And then in 1956, they had a 47-game winning streak. Then after Coach Wilkerson left, the next thing I kind of remembered about Oklahoma, the 1971 team, the only college football team that was so good they never won it all. And I was 11 years old. That's when I became a fan of Boomer Sooner, because they brought this innovation wishbone offense where they had Jack Mildred running the show. And they had Chuck Fairbanks as the coach. They had Greg Pruitt. And they played on Thanksgiving Day, November the 21st to 25th, 1971 against Nebraska. And that great Nebraska team, they had Jerry Taggart, Richard Glover, Johnny Rogers. And what I remember about the game, I saw Jack Mildred, even though he wasn't one of us, but he had that kind of long hair swagger. I call them white lightning. And that Oklahoma team, I think to this day, listen to this day, Mr. E, they averaged 472 yards rushing. And 1971, Boomer Sooner. And then he scored 62 touchdowns rushing. Let me put that in simple math for you out there, college football fans. That's 5 touchdowns a game. Then he had 711-yard rushing game. And then Greg Pruitt, the young man from Houston, Texas, had over 1,600 yards. He averaged almost 9 yards a pop. And you had your man, Mr. Barry Switzer, as the offensive coordinator. Then after that 71 team, they didn't win it all. They lost their legendary game in Nebraska, 35-31. Then Chuck Fairbanks left Oklahoma 2 years later, took the job in New England with the New England Patriots. He wanted the money. Then they hired Barry Switzer. That's when Boomer Sooner really changed. That's when Oklahoma football came into its own. And then think about this. When Coach Switzer took over the 1973 team, that's when y'all went on probation. I'm going to consider you part of the Oklahoma family. 73, 74, y'all couldn't be on TV. And then y'all was banned for bowl games. And then 75 was the first year y'all could get back on TV. But during that time, 73, 74, 75, that's when Oklahoma football came alive and college football, because all we knew about was that team out there in the West Coast, California, the USC Trojans. They had Lynch Warren, Anthony Davis,
Nebraska.
Right. But you're looking at that Oklahoma team. Let's talk about Switzer's first team in 73. He got the young man from Port Arthur, Texas. They had the Hollywood swagger, Joe Washington. He had the quarterback, Steve. That's what I'm talking about. Then you had Steve Davis. Then you had your homeboys from the Fala, the Selman brothers, bringing that defense. And then look what they done. 73, they went undefeated, but they didn't really get what I call the votes because they was on probation. I beat Penn State that year. And then that year they had that tie against SC in 73. Went out to Los Angeles, played before 84,000. Then it came back in 74 and won it all without even going to a bowl game. Think about how powerful that is. You don't go to a bowl game and you're on probation and you're still number one. And then you think about that Oklahoma team. Like I say, Joe Washington had 1,321 yards that year. You had Steve Davis running the ball. You had that defense. They had the Selman brothers, Randy Hughes, Ron Schultz.
That was the blueprint of what Oklahoma was doing right now.
And that's what I'm talking about. Then they finally came out probation and won it in 74, repeated in 75, beat Michigan in the Orange Bowl. Then it turned around, really, the early 80s, even though the Oklahoma teams didn't win it to 85. But what I remember, man, when I got to school, I don't bring it up too much, but Pig Seward, I'm a University of Arkansas graduate. I was there from 78 to 82. But if you notice, Norman, Oklahoma is only 2.5 hours from Fayetteville, Arkansas. So we had a TV affiliate that came out of Oklahoma. So I watched the Barry Switzer show all the time. But from that 78 to 85 period, man, look at all the great players that came through OU. I'm going to start the year I was there, my freshman year. Another Oklahoma team that was ranked #1 lost to Nebraska at the end of the year when they fumbled 9 times. So Billy Sims won the Heisman Trophy that year. But remember, he had that fumble at the 5-yard line. Then he ended up coming back playing Nebraska in the bowl game. But think about all the players that was under Switzer. Thomas Lott, Kenny King, Billy Sims, David Overstreet, Ellis Peacock, Buster Rhymes, Jackie Schill, Rick Grimes, Casillas, the Balls. But you brought up a guy before we started the show today, and I'm going to say this. I'm so frustrated and so sad that this gentleman really didn't make it on the college level. And if you've been watching 100 Yards football, I always tell y'all, it's something in the water in Mississippi. I say it all the time because my parents are from Mississippi, my mother from Sunflower, and my daddy people from Canton. And I think about Mississippi, and I think about all the great individuals from there, Morgan Freeman, James Earl Jones, Walter Payton, Jerry Rice. I don't have to say no more. But the main guy that you was talking about, Marcus Dupree. Man, I'm going to tell you, the Black Hercules, the Black Jesus, whatever you want to call him, may be If the gentleman would have stayed straight, the greatest running back that ever played college football, and then he came on the scene in 1982. Now I'm gonna start before I get to that. When I graduated from college in '82, I remember the recruiting class that came out that year. You had Bo Jackson.
Right.
You had another running back, Roman Bates. That was out of Memphis, Hamilton. They ended up going to Ohio State, and then you had Keith Myers. But everybody was talking about that young man down in Philadelphia, Mississippi that had over 300 scholarships, Marcus Dupree. And when he got to Oklahoma, think about with Coach Switzer how much talent the young man had. He did away with the wishbone and went to the high formation. And think about Oklahoma, his first year that they lost, I think, the first 3 out of 4. But think about when he came on the scene, think about that Texas game, the Red River shootout, and he took that thing 61 yards for a touchdown. I don't want to really come out of my chair, but you saw that guy 6'3", 235, take it to the house and lift the air. He was one of those players like my father.
He did more in a year and a half than most players do their whole career.
That's what I'm saying. And you think about that player. See, I don't want to get excited today, but like my dad, when he used to watch Walter Payton, that was his favorite run back. My dad used to come up out of his chair, love to pop Chester Turner down there and to say, Marcus Dupree brought that type of style.
Right.
And then I remember that year, his freshman year against Missouri, when he broke one for about 70 yards, and the safety from Missouri had an angle on it. And the safety was the big 8th 100-meter champ. And how Marcus Dupree took away from him. And then when I was reading about Mr. Dupree, of course, they say he never lifted weights, but he was a 400-pound guy on the bench. Then think about this. He was a legitimate 4'3", 9'4", 100.
Right.
And then think about what he did at the end of the year when him and Switzer and things went south. He went home for Christmas. Allegedly, he came to the Fiesta Bowl that New Year's Day overweight. But think about that in that game against Arizona State. They had a pretty good defense. 221. And then think about this who played on that defense for Arizona State. Jim Jeffcoat. And Mike Richardson, starting quarterback for the 85 Bears. And think about Marcus Dupree was out of shape because I watched the game.
Yeah, he was out of shape. He was catching him from behind.
Yeah,
he had 300 some yards.
Think about if he would have been in shape, the young man would have probably went over 400 yards in that ball game. But unfortunately, next year, things didn't go well. Came out of shape. Him and Coach Switzer kind of didn't see eye to eye. Coach Switzer had to let him go for the sake of the team. And man, you think about that time, and then think about Marcus Dupree, the backs that he was following at Oklahoma in a type of Hollywood, I want to say, excitement that was enormous. That he came behind J.C. Watts. You know what I'm saying? Danny Bradman. Thomas Lott, I hate to bring his name up again. Evans Peacock. Think about all those guys. Billy Sims, David Overstreet, Kenny King, Ken Lauber, George Crumley.
He had a stack of runs against.
And so that time, Oklahoma football was at the top of the level. Then the 85 season. Then nobody expected Oklahoma to come out of nowhere because they had kind of did away with the wishbone and went to the affirmation for you know who, Troy, who ended up winning 3 Super Bowls for the Dallas Cowboys. But remember, Troy Aikman got hurt in that Miami game. Got hurt by the Jones.
Broke his leg.
Jerome Brown. A lot of people don't know it, broke his leg. And his future teammate, Michael Irvin, went off in that game, remember? And think about that year when Coach Switzer said, you know what, he went to Troy Aikman and knew because Troy was struggling trying to run the ball and said, hey man, this might not work for you, this might work out, and got him to transfer to UCLA. But he brought the young man from Carson, California.
Freshman, 18.
Can you say his name? Can we say it?
Holloway.
Out of Carson, California, yeah, hey, the city of Compton.
5'9", 5'10".
And boy, he ran that ball. But then think about this, who was also on that team. A young man that Arkansas let get away.
The All-American.
The athletic Keith Jackson. And remember, he had 2 explosive plays that year, that 71-yard touchdown catch and that 80-yard reverse against Nebraska. But think about the Orange Bowl, man. They went in against #1 Penn State, and I couldn't understand why everybody was talking about Penn State winning that football game. Because let's be for real, you know Penn State didn't have the speed. And what happened? All of them is the Bars having a great game. Ricky Dixon out of Dallas having a great game.
Lotto Carr had a
Yeah,
good game.
and him breaking that 61-yard touchdown in Indy.
Mr. Tillman had a real good game. Start taking the bulk of the carries and Marcus Dupree left.
And then y'all had that little reverse, that speed receiver out of St. Louis, Missouri by the name of Troy Stafford.
Mm.
And Oklahoma winning that game, that really was the epitome of Boomer Sooner. Then you had some rough years that we're not going to get into, and then Coach Switzer got fired.
You know, if it wasn't for Miami, we would have won 3 in the 80s. We dominated the 80s.
No question about it.
All the way to the SEC started dominating, it was the Big 12.
No question about it.
Nebraska and Oklahoma was winning everything.
And said one more time, it would have been for who? The U?
We played for 3. Well, 86, we lost to them, number 1 against number 2 in Miami, 3rd game of the year. But that was like a national championship game.
No question
about it. And they lost to Penn State later on that year. But we played again the next year in 87 for the national championship at Miami against Miami.
You always bring that up, Mr. Hill, at Miami, but, you know, were you sitting here some home cooking that game?
Yeah, them boys were playing real good from home. That's what it was.
Yeah, the Orange Bowl was rocking that night.
See, Miami they was able to match our physical strength, and they was just as fast, if not faster.
Well, think about all those players Miami had at that time. The Blade brothers, Jerome Brown, Russell Maryland.
Maryland had that quarterback.
They had Vinny Testaverde. Then they had Steve Walsh. Then they had Michael Irvin, Melvin Braxton. Yeah, man, they had super talent coming out of Florida. Mm-hmm. Then Coach Switzer got fired in '89, said the program was out of control. Yeah, a little scandal. That's all. I think basically that
death penalty.
Right. But then Oklahoma went through some rough times in the '90s, but they came back in 2000 with a young man out of Youngstown, Ohio, by the name of B.S.
Bob Stoops.
Was the D coordinator, had won a national, learned under the ball coach Steve Spurrier. Mm-hmm. And then that 2000 team, if you're talking about maybe the least talented Oklahoma team to win a national championship, but to me, the most gritty team, the team that had heart. And today I want to give kudos to our producer who's making it happen, Mr. Jeremiah Long. But he's from the state of Tennessee. How epitome is God is in this plan that the gentleman who's the head football coach right now in Tennessee, Josh Heupel, was the quarterback on the 2000 national championship team. But what I liked about that 2000 team, though, y'all had what they call Warriors. Remember that movie in 1979, Warriors Come Out to Play? Yeah. Warriors Come Out to Play! Josh Norman, Quentin Griffin, Roy Williams, Torrance Marshall out of Miami, Rocket Collins, Antonio Savage out of Augusta here in the state of Georgia. Right. You never heard of those guys. But I remember that year when I knew Oklahoma was for real, when they put that whooping on Texas in the Red River Shootout, 64 to 19? Yeah. I said, ooh, wait, the Sooners are for real. But think about that 2000 team, and people don't talk about the performance they had in the Orange Bowl. They would have shut out Florida State. No disrespect, Bobby Butler today, who's part of 100 yards football. I love you, man, but I got to tell it. Y'all only got 2 points that game. Oklahoma would have shut y'all out. And that Florida State team, they had so much offensive firepower. Right. Then they had Peter Warwick. Peter Warwick had left.
Just left.
But they had Marvin, I can't think of the receiver, that got suspended.
Right.
But it's going to come to me. I want to say Marvin Mills, but it wasn't. But they had some talent. And think about I know Anquan Bolden, I believe, was a freshman on the team. Oklahoma, coming into that game in 2000, who would have ever thought that Oklahoma was going to be able to shut Florida State out offensively? Right. But when you look at the Sooners and look at the program right now, and all the great players that's played, especially out of the state of Texas, 2003 team with Jason White and Adrian Peterson, going down the road, 2008 with Sam Bradford, then all your Heisman Trophy winners, Steve Owens, Billy Vessel, Jason White, Sam Bradford, Baker Mayfield, Callum Murray, and Billy Sims. I kind of say, with y'all coming to the SEC now, it's going to be real interesting. And Boomer Sooner is going to come with some smoke. And then Brent Venables had a real rough year last year, 6-7, but y'all bounced back this year.
Yeah, and I think the game plan is just to continue to mold. See, he did like LeBron did. He went to Most a lot of national championship teams or defensive teams that helped, win or slowed down the team that won the national championship that year, but then gave him fits. He took all that knowledge from back to Oklahoma and incorporated that to what we were lacking, which is our staple defense. We don't score points.
Right.
Now you got that. And he's recruiting at a higher level because players always liked Oklahoma, but they weren't playing in the SEC the last 10 years.
Right.
The SEC's the premier conference. So now that they're going there, players are like, okay, we like Oklahoma, and then we go playing in the premier conference. They're starting to come to Oklahoma with BV having the experience he has, and the defensive players are like, yeah, man, we can get it in. Here we'll be athletic, we'll run the scheme, we'll run, the cheetah, all that.
Yes,
4-3. It's perfect. So we're going to go into premier teams in the SEC like right away. We were doing well from a Big 12 standpoint. To be honest with you, beat Alabama in 2014, Auburn 2016, lost to Alabama in 2018. Close one. Kyler Murray only had an offense, and then LSU blew us out. A year later, when we had Jalen Hurts, you know what I'm saying? We just had offense there, riding this one. But once we get that back balance, watch how we take over the SEC.
So before we leave this segment today, the Oklahoma Sooners, who I say changed the face of college football, baby. Go look at it. Bud Wilkerson, he took over in 48. Boomer Sooner in college football up to another level. What will you tell the fans at Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Arkansas, everybody else in the SEC? What will you tell them with your fighting words today in that segment about Oklahoma coming to the SEC?
Well, it's going to bring a lot of, culture to the league. Oklahoma, going to Ole Miss, Alabama. It's going to, expand the conference. And that's good. You need more additions to solidify the conference. It's going to make the conference even stronger. With two teams, Texas looking like they're in the Final Four. Oklahoma top 10. And those two best teams at the Big 12 going to the SEC, that just makes it even stronger because there for a while, it was just Alabama, Georgia, and maybe Florida or Tennessee or LSU. So this year, I think SEC had a little down year. Had like 5 or 6 teams in the top 15, 20.
You better say that real quiet.
And,
You said down here. I mean, people get offended.
Yeah, they get offended.
Remember now, you right up the street. We right up the street from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium where they had the SEC championship
Just last night.
And people gonna be watching that, so you better watch what you say.
We're going to the SEC, so we're going to help solidify that conference with 4 or 5 solid teams every year. But again, I believe once the recruiting continues to pick up, top 5 level, being in the SEC, which brings those recruits from the South. We were getting Louisiana players, Texas players, going poking a few players from Florida. Once that picks back up, the coaching and the institution that we have set up and the rhythm that we have going in Oklahoma, at the next 5 years, we're probably going to 2 or 3 national championships.
Woo! Boomer! Suda! You heard it from Mr. L. We're leaving our Oklahoma football history segment now. Let's go to our NFL legend segment. Today, Mr. L, I let him pick the player that he wanted to highlight today. Our NFL legend today, Shannon Sharpe. So tell me, why did you pick Shannon Sharpe for our NFL legend segment today?
Well, just a little what I know about him. He's from the SWAC. You know what I'm saying? And I think he's from...
No, not from the SWAC, but he's from Savannah State.
He's from Savannah State. So but that's black.
Well, we can say the HBCU.
HBCU.
Yeah.
And so coming from nowhere, they getting drafted. I think he won a couple titles.
Yeah, he won 3 Super Bowls, 2 with Denver and 1 with Baltimore.
Okay, so you got that. And again, since he's retired, I think his post career has been well with his podcast and the shows on ESPN. I like that too. He's still relevant. And so you take the brother from humble beginnings to where he is now, still doing his thing. Heard he got explicit about how he felt about Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah, he went a little bit too far there.
I think but we were talking about doing this before he did that. So
yeah,
separate the program. But yeah, outstanding dude as far as that goes on the field and what he's been able to accomplish since his career. You know what I'm saying? Connecting the dots, and I think it's worth highlighting. Coming from at HBCU, going from which you don't have that much anymore. So we have to pinpoint and highlight those that did it recently. That's recent. He ain't been out for 10 years. That's recent, and and give perspective to it because he doesn't have as much anymore.
I think me personally, when you look at Shannon Sharpe and look where he came from, of course, I've done a lot of HBCU classes. You go to our podcast, 100 Yards Football, you see I've done a podcast with Jerry Rice, Walter Payton, Claude Humphrey. But the reason I like doing HBCU class is because you brought up a key word, humble. The facilities weren't great. And think about Mr. Sharpe. He was a 7th-round draft pick out of Savannah State in 1990. But look at the career he had, brother. Unbelievable. Like I said, over 10,000 yards receiving as a tight end, 815 receptions, 62 touchdowns at the tight end position, 8-time Pro Bowl, 4-time All-Pro. What I'm impressed with in his career from 1996 to 1998, he had over 2,900 yards and 23 touchdowns. He still has the longest, I want to say the longest reception in a playoff game, the 96-yarder he had when Baltimore was playing Oakland in the playoffs, when Baltimore won the Super Bowl, I believe in 2001. But the greatest thing I think I like about Shannon Sharpe was the ability. When you look at how the tight end position has really changed, the Tony Gonzalez's, the Rob Gronkowski's, the Antonio Gates, man, Shannon Sharpe kind of set the table. He kind of came in the middle where the tight end position really kind of took the next level. Yeah. But because before him, we had Kellen Winslow, senior, that had took it to another level. But he kind of put the mustard on the salad for sure and took it there. And then I look at Mr. Sharpe's skill set. He was a precision route runner, A+.
Ran it like a receiver.
Hands, A+. Very confident, A+. Know where to find the holes in a defense, which is very critical, whether you're a receiver or a tight end.
Right.
But the thing that really sticks out to me about his career that people don't talk about, and you look at old school, you got all the old school tight ends that really didn't get the receptions, was John Mackey, remember him? Right. Charlie Sanders, Mike Ditka, those guys blocked. Shannon Sharpe blocked. That's what I give him an 880 plus.
He did dirty work too.
And then think about this. 1990 when he was at the Broncos, Bobby Humphrey played running back, went over 1,200 yards. The next year, in 1991, Gaston Green out of UCLA went over 1,000 yards. Then Terrell Davis came along in 96. Terrell Davis, I believe, had 1,300 yards. Then the next year, Terrell Davis had 1,500. The next year, Terrell Davis had 1,700. I believe that was a Super Bowl year. The next year, back-to-back Super Bowls, Terrell Davis had 2,000. Then remember, Terrell Davis got hurt. The following year, I believe Mike Anderson had over 1,500 yards. Then Shannon Sharpe gets traded to Baltimore. And they Super Bowl year, Jamal Lewis, who's a rookie out of Tennessee, went over 1,300 yards. Then he gets traded back to Baltimore. Or I believe he re-signed with Baltimore. First year he back, Clinton Portis out of the University of Miami, goes over 1,500 yards. And the reason I'm saying this, why I give Mr. Shannon Sharpe A+ as a blocker, probably the best blocker at the tight end position, they ran all to his side. Right. Think about that. We don't even talk about that, right, about his skill set. And then he was a gentleman that played the tougher position on the field, if you want to say it that time, because at the time they weren't throwing the ball all over the place. They were running and throwing, right, but they were running the ball, and you run it to his side, and all these backs go over 1,000 yards.
Says a lot about him.
What does it say about him? Teammate. Want to spread the knowledge. He don't want all that smoke. But a lot of people perceive him because of his post-career maybe a little arrogant. But think about that. He's not arrogant being that type of teammate. And think about him running backs that went over 1,000 yards when he was blocking on the side, he was running the ball. And then a Hall of Fame in 2011. And no disrespect, I understand why he got that man Skip Bayless. Because I think of Skip Bayless, when he was on the show on Undisputed, we know we talk about, I don't have to go there. Right. Skip Bayless would have done his research and saw, hey man, I'm kind of disrespecting this guy because this guy was not only a great receiver, this guy was a hell of a football player. Hall of Fame in 2011, a lot of respect. And when you talk about top 5, you got to give him top 5, man. Easily. I'm going to say it one more time. 815 receptions, over 10,000 yards, 62
He's one of the
touchdowns.
best tight ends ever to play the game. I think Skip was comparing him to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Isn't fair, but he's still in the conversation because he's a great player with 3 Super Bowls. I mean,
And
he
then,
felt slighted behind him.
and then think about 2002 when he was kind of, I believe it was the 2002 season when, it might have not been 2002, but it was a season where he had a single game record when he had 12 receptions, I believe, for over 214 yards, broke that tight end record that was held by Jackie Smith. Come on, man. When you look at the profession, you're looking at the tight end position, and man, I was a John Mackey fan. I was a Charlie Sanders fan. I was a Mike Dicker fan. I'm going to throw another guy that doesn't get a lot of respect, Jimmy Giles, out of Alcorn State, don't they? Where they played with Doug Williams. See, Shannon Sharpe was in that category.
And in his college days, was he prolific the same way? Because I don't know as far as his college. I know he got drafted, so he had to be doing his thing.
But like in his college days, I don't know his stats, but obviously you brought up a good point. Mike Shanahan saw something to draft him in the 7th round in 1990. And think about that. It wasn't like he came in as a pre-donna. He had to come in.
Yeah,
he had to make the team go up. So he was going to get these seals ass.
Mm-hmm. He had to make the call.
Unbelievable football player, man. That's our NFL legend today, Mr. Shannon Sharpe. Now to end the show today, the college football playoffs.
Mm.
To the people in Tallahassee, Florida, I want to say, I feel for you today. You've done everything you needed to do, go undefeated in the college football season. You beat everybody on your schedule. You went 13-0. I'm crazy about the head coach Mike Norvell because he was at the University of Memphis, the 901. But right now, you got to be feeling for the people in Tallahassee. But if we're going to be honest, and if you're a true football fan, you somewhat got to take the 4 best teams. Even though a lot of people here in the state of Georgia say Georgia should be in it. But it's hard to keep Alabama out of it, man. I understand we got Texas in because they beat Alabama, but Alabama yesterday beat the #1 team in the country. And then, of course, what Michigan has done, what Washington has done, there's no question about it. But the matchups are set. In the Rose Bowl, you got the Wolverines taking on the University of Alabama. Then you got Texas and Washington playing down there in New Orleans. And I'm going to tell you something to the people there from Seattle, Washington. I know you're going to be coming down from the Northwest, but New Orleans is a whole different animal when you visit New Orleans. So get ready. I'm just telling you this. The University of Washington, but let's talk about the first matchup, the Michigan Wolverines taking on the University of Alabama.
That's a solid matchup because Michigan is a methodical team. They're not splashy and flashy, but that might be something that can slow Alabama down. You know, they've got good coaching. Harbaugh's back. They'll be in a game plan for about 4 weeks, and they got to just account for that athletic quarterback that Alabama has. Other than that, it beat pound for pound pretty much. They both got a lot of talent. Alabama's probably a little quicker and a little beefier deep down, but Michigan can handle it. But I think the key factor would be Alabama having that athletic quarterback that can run and throw really well, as opposed to just throw, can't run or run. He can do both. He's smart. He's intelligent. He's calm, cool in the pocket. And I don't think Michigan has enough to give it an experienced, hungry team like Alabama. I don't know if he's going to start showing their core and they're well coached. So I think close game, but I think Alabama gets it.
I'm going to say this about the University of Michigan before I come in on Alabama. I think we're looking at a different Michigan team that's a little more athletic than we think about. One thing, Michigan's got that big offensive line, and I think what we really kind of mistaken is their quarterback, J.J. McCartney's a really serious NFL prospect. He hadn't to do much because they're playing in the Big Ten, but he's a guy with Roman Wilson, a very athletic receiver on the outside. Don't really get Michigan out of point now. They can throw the football. And I think what's really impressed me with Michigan, they have a really good defense that's played at a really high level. Against Ohio State a couple of weeks ago, played at a high level, even though Marvin Harrison Jr. had a pretty good game when it went over 100 yards. The Wolverines can play real good, and they got an outstanding linebacker, Michael Barrett. Looking at them, and then Blake Corn, their running back, hasn't really went off but he's a guy that can go off in that football game. Not to the University of Alabama. I'm gonna say this. Been knowing about the program because we grew up in the South. Me and my producer, Mr. Jeremiah Long, we know about Alabama Roll Tide. But I'm gonna say this: why I'm really happy about Alabama, it's the quarterback Jalen Merrill. I saw the young man yesterday after the game break down and start crying. And you're looking at the Alabama tradition at the quarterback position: Pat Tramble, Kenny the Snake Stabler, Walter Lewis, Jay Barker. There's been some great players that's played at the position, and playing quarterback at the University of Alabama in that state is something that is really you can't explain. And then think about it, playing that position as an African American, you can imagine. And think about Jalen Romero, that I would say this about the young man, that I'm happy. Going into the first of the season after the Texas game, you had everybody that want to run their man out of the state of Alabama. And think about all the criticism he took on internet, social media.
And in Alabama in general.
And think about this in the coaching staff, because if the coaching staff really believed in him, then think about this. They wouldn't have benched him against South Florida. And it took the South Florida game to realize that.
And the players going back and saying, no, that's our guy.
And for Nick Saban to standing up and saying, okay, I better go with this guy. And the young man, remember, he's only a kid, man. And think about the pressure and all the ugliness that's coming to his family. I'm just keeping it real here on 100 Yards Football. I don't care if you get mad, Roll Tide. Now your fans patting him on the back. But think about that pressure. I was happy for him. And I'm going to tell you this, Michigan, you better use what Georgia did yesterday. You better have 2 spies, because he's going to be, I think, the difference in the football game. If you control him, you're going to beat Alabama. If you don't, then you know what? Michigan, you're going to be looking at the history. Joe Namath, Leroy Jordan, Eric Curry, John Copeland, Jay Barker, David Palmer, Johnny Musso. It's going to be Roll Tide out there in California. In our final game, the Texas Longhorns and the Washington Huskies. I guess when we talk about Texas, I always think about James Street and Vince Young, 2005 versus USC. But Quinn Ewins has played like Vince Young. And I'm going to be honest, I was very shocked. You can help me out because you being an Oklahoma fan, you know about the Big 8. Did you think they was going to handle Oklahoma State like they did yesterday in the Big 12 championship game? That easy?
I did, yes, because I watched Oklahoma State, and they're a good team, but they maxed out this year with 8-3, and they're not they don't got the trenches type of players like Texas does. They're not built like an Alabama, Texas type of physical team. They can have a finesse game with you, but you hit them hard and play strong underneath. They can't seem to get around that, even though they were playing them pound for pound in the first quarter, where it was just too much Texas. And I see the same thing slight against Washington, but Washington's, beefed up a little more, get down. Because last time Washington was in the Final Four, it was 2015-16 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
and Alabama rolled on them.
Yeah, so
Alabama brought the smoke through the hole.
They're just as strong, and Washington is stronger. Got a more athletic quarterback who can throw. That might keep him in the game. And I just think, again, in the trenches, Alabama will win in the trenches, which means slightly they can win that game, because Washington got an athletic quarterback too that can throw probably better. But I think physically it's going to be, if they can bring it to a physical game, a grinding game, Washington will stretch you out. I think Alabama can get it.
Texas.
Texas can stretch you out, and Washington can stretch you out, but Texas, they'll have to play like they did against Oklahoma State. But Washington's a lot better, a lot more talented, a lot more athleticism. They're strong in the trenches. Where
I'm gonna tell you about the game. Texas, you brought up good points. Washington, I didn't think Michael Penix was that good.
He's nice.
I saw them play briefly when we was in Indiana last year, and briefly watched him, and I haven't watched him this year, but I watched him on Friday night. I tell you, he makes me feel money Friday night, and I tell you what he can do. He can really throw the ball hash to hash.
Right.
Out to my throwing the ball hash to hash.
Drop it down.
And it looking like that ball coming off his arm like the days when I used to go up and watch Tennessee State play when I was 6 years old and 66, when I watched Edris Dickey, when I watched Joe Street Gilliam. The ball comes off his hand like a buzz, like a razor. And you know, when you think about the Huskies, Kalen DeBoer, the head coach, man, he had a plan. He brought Michael Penix Jr. from Indiana because he was offensive coordinator. But the thing I think about Washington, when I think about Michael Penix Jr. as we wrapped up today, the Huskies, you always got to think about Roy Moon, man.
Yeah.
Sonny Six Killer. Then you got to think about that 91 national championship team under Don James, Steve Edmond, DeMarco Farr, Mario Bailey. You know, that team right there, man, that was a special team. And then nobody out of the Northwest. And, you know, they beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl. And when they split that national championship that year with Miami.
Right.
But seeing Penix play the quarterback position, man, you got to think about the Huskies as a whole. Like I said again, Sonny Six Killer, Warren Moon, Billy Joe Hobart, Mark Brunell. Washington gonna be a tough out. And you know what? I'm gonna say it right now. Alabama, Michigan, and Texas have all good football teams. I'm gonna take the Huskies to win it out on the basis of Michael Penix Jr. I'm gonna say it today here on 100 Yards Football. Your final predictions. Let's go back. Rose Bowl, Alabama, Michigan.
Alabama, Michigan, Alabama.
Texas and Washington, down there in New Orleans.
Texas.
The Big Easy.
Texas.
They figured that. He got to stay with the Big 12. Final words today here on 100 Yards Football. Mr. L, owner of Royal Crown Barber Shop, here on Ralph Abernathy Boulevard, 879, the West End. Your final words today, being our first guest here on 100 Yards of Football as we go on location.
Well, hopefully we can continue to bring good content and energy, contacts, and energy and things that bring about, you know, good conversation. I enjoyed myself, and we can, you know, continue to grow with what we know. And I'd like to see, you know, hopefully, Texas will play for the national championship, but Alabama should win it.
My final words here on 100 Yards Football, I'd like to say very thankful for Mr. L, owner of Royal Crown Barber Shop, for allowing 100 Yards Football to come in here today and shoot. I'd like to give special thanks. Man, I've been blessed. I wouldn't be where I'm at with the young man I'm looking at right now. But he told me, don't say Oak Ridge, Tennessee, but Knoxville, Tennessee, Mr. Jeremiah Law, one of the most talented guys in social media that I put up there, A+. To the team of 100 Yards Football, thank you. To everybody that supports 100 Yards Football, to Mr. Logan Landers that does an outstanding job for us on Wednesdays. My final words today has been enjoyable. I really want to act more food because, hey, first show, you're on location, you want to put an impression, but I'm going to say this. Boomer, sooner. Dun, 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 dun. The 901, Vincent Turner, Mr. L, 100 Yards of Football.
See you next time.